Hello and welcome to The Federal. You're watching Off the Beaten Track, a program in which we pick up one issue and discuss it at length, most often than not with just one expert, a subject expert at that. Indian elections never stop confounding us. We keep on making predictions, but every time or the other, when the verdict is announced, somewhere or the other we have got wrong. This time, when there were elections in 5 assembly states, almost all the states we got it wrong. We meaning the pollsters. 3 states in the Hindi heartland, it was kind of understood that Chhattisgarh, definitely the Congress will win. Madhya Pradesh also, the Congress seemed to be in a good position. Rajasthan was anybody's game. Mizoram will. As it is, the mainstream media does not go into the Northeast much to cover elections there. But nonetheless, whatever news came from this appeared that the ruling front, the Mizoram National Front, would be victorious. In Telangana, it appeared that the Congress was registering a good presence, but nobody had expected that they would be able to come back to power with such a huge majority. So we've all been proven wrong. We've already started making predictions. People are saying openly that this elections puts the certain cloak of finality on the 2024 elections, that it paves the way clear for Mr. Modi to become Prime Minister for the 3rd time. Is it really such a case? Or are there various other ways to actually look at it? I'm going to be talking about all these issues. Very interestingly, something which I wanted to do for a long time with a gentleman who is an expert of this subject and is also my namesake, Mr. Neelanjan Sircar. Thank you very much for coming and joining on our program. He is a senior fellow at the Center for Research and is also non-resident fellow at the Center for the Advanced Study of India at the University of Pennsylvania. Welcome to this program, Mr. Sircar.
Thank you for having me.
Or should I possibly call you, it would be more appropriate for me to call you Dr. Sircar.
If we call each other Nilanjan, I get confused.
I can also call you Nilanjan. So let me take it off from where I said that by and large, the drift of the media is that 2024 is a settled story. Do you really think it's a settled story, or there are many more complexities that have to be understood and many more challenges which the BJP also has to face before it can actually say with confidence, relative confidence, that things are fairly comfortable?
So I think, first of all, politics is politics, and we can never say that anything is a settled story, and certainly not 2024. And I'll tell you, it's a lot more unsettled than even people may imagine. So if we just take the 3 Hindi belt states that went to the polls this time, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, they have 65 Lok Sabha seats between them. And in each of the last 2 national elections, in 2014 and 2019, the BJP won 62 of them, right? Strike rate of more than 95%. Nothing, no model, no theory, no history can ever predict for you a 95% plus strike rate. That is a complete sweep. Meaning that today, it may be the case that I go to Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Chhattisgarh. The BJP is the most popular party. Modi is even more popular than that. But is he, and is the national version of the BJP popular enough to sweep almost every seat again in these states? That is a hard question to answer. In the Hindi belt as a whole, if we take the last 2 elections, the BJP has had a strike rate of the seats that it contested of 90%. Okay, so even before blinking, we're talking about the BJP getting 170, 180 odd seats just from the Hindi belt in the last 2 national elections. When we say that 2024 is a fait accompli, what we are essentially assuming is a repeat performance in the Hindi belt at this scale, at this magnitude. And the reason why that is hard to predict is that if we look back to 2014, there was massive anti-incumbency against the Congress party. Modi was the new thing. There was a Modi wave. In 2019, we had the Balakot strike. We had a surge of nationalism, anti-Pakistan. Even with the huge popularity that we see of the BJP in the Hindi belt today, are we going to get results that numerically in 2024 look like what created that sort of all-encompassing nationalistic feeling? Just one other data point here. If we look at the BJP's vote share in each of these states in the national election, they are well over 50%. So we're still talking about a situation where even with these very impressive results in the state election, the BJP's vote share still needs to rise by double digits at the national level to get that kind of sweep. Maybe it's there. Maybe the Ram Mandir will prove to be that, glue factor for the BJP, or some other issue will come up. But it's certainly not a fait accompli.
Till a few weeks ago, it appeared that 2023 was mirroring 2018. But suddenly this verdict of especially these three states, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh, completely turns it around. You refer to the 2019 elections. Let me also, be the devil's advocate. If we look at the 2019 data and go back, then we find that the BJP had 50% or more seats in states which collectively accounted for 155 Lok Sabha seats. And the BJP won 155. There were many more. So it came from those where they had more than 155 seats. So there are large number of states where the BJP in parliamentary elections in 2019 polled more than 50%. Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, certainly smaller states like Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Gujarat, of course. Uttar Pradesh was very close. It was 49% on its own. You add the, Apna Dal to it, would possibly be just about crossing 50% in Bihar with the JDU. So there were a large number of states where the Congress went up to more than 50%. Now, a lot of our electoral understanding is based on this mathematical concept of index of opposition unity. Now, we are talking that if the Congress had done, its, alliances better, if it had been open to embracing the smaller parties, both in Rajasthan as well as in Madhya Pradesh, maybe the situation could have been different. But suppose they had something like that going on in 2019 and a similar situation happens in 2024. Even if everybody comes together, they'll still not be able to trump the BJP's 50% plus, which vote share that they have. They'll still possibly end up winning, if not 25 out of 25, they'll win possibly 23 out of 25, or maybe not 29, all of them from Madhya Pradesh, but they'll win possibly 27, as it happened in Karnataka last time when they won 25 seats. So there is a possibility that the opposition party, even if they are able to finally, overcome the troubles that they're having, the petty ego clashes, finally are able to meet, all that happens, and we know, they get sorted out. But even then, that may be a mathematical impossibility. Would you agree with this? Somebody who understands data much better than people like me do.
No, in fact, the assessment is absolutely correct, right? So just to give a sense of the scale of the victory,
yes,
if we don't consider who's in the opposition alliance, simply take the 303 seats the BJP won, we add the second party and third party vote share, the BJP only loses about 40 odd more seats, meaning their margins of victory were so high that even the third place party is not playing a spoiler in most of these seats.
right.
And obviously the India alliance, then there's a question about whether the two alliances, the party machinery for two parties can work. There's no way that you should just simply add second party and third party feature. So necessarily, if we are saying that 2024 is in play, we are necessarily saying that the BJP is doing less well than it did in 2019 in many of these states. I always point people to 6 states: Bihar, UP, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Maharashtra. In 2014, the BJP got about 70% of its seats from these 6 states.
That's right.
Yeah. And in 2019, that number went down slightly, but it's still a vast majority of the seats are coming from these states, right? Now, the point is that you have extraordinary concentration of BJP support in national elections, very high margins of victory, often against the Congress. And the BJP has had a strike rate of 90% plus against the Congress in national elections in both 2014 and 2019. If we're talking about a situation where that kind of vote share and that kind of strike rate in direct head-to-head competition against the Congress party is maintained, India alliance or no India alliance or some alliance, very good alliance is not going to make much of a difference, right? Because that's just where the numbers are. So the first question one has about if this becomes a competitive election is that can the Congress put up a better fight in head-to-head contests against the BJP? Because it's a non-starter if you're losing 90% plus of seats and you are going in head-to-head contests in 200 something seats, right? This is non-starter. Add to the fact that in most cases, it's a standard rule of political science, in fact, that you have two top parties. So it isn't as if adding a third party, adding TMC as a coalition with the Congress party does not dramatically change the vote share for the opposition in Rajasthan because the TMC is not a player in Rajasthan.
Right.
So when we say that is 2024 in play, it is always in play. But it is only in play if the BJP is unable to reach those heights again. But in order to reach those heights, in the last two national elections, it has required a certain kind of nationalistic wave. If it is unable to manufacture that again, that is when 2024 will be in play, not because this person added to the alliance or that person added to the alliance. That is less likely to have that kind of impact.
If we actually look at this round of elections and especially talking about the Hindi heartland, why did BJP win? Of course, we will talk about, if we get the time, that what mistakes did the Congress make. But the BJP won primarily because of a plan which consisted of 4 pillars. I would put it the way I would look at it, that there is Modi and his popularity, his personality. There is a constant Hindutva factor. You do not have to scream, shout, but yes, in the last 9 years, a certain sense has been made that Hindus are more respected in their own country. I'm using the word their own within quotes. That is the most complex. This is our land. It's not their land. It's not their country. So there is a constant Hindutva sentiment. There is this entire feeling of the welfareist schemes which they have done. Many people have a disagreement, of calling it welfare, but it's actually more a state-driven charity or state-driven outside corruption. If I can actually call it so. Ladli Behna Yojana, for instance, actually you are literally using state funds to buy the votes. This is the way many of us would possibly look at it. And then there is the final bit, that it is the party apparatus. BJP, which has become possibly the most formidable political apparatus within the country. It beats even what the left front used to be during its heydays in Bengal. So these 4 factors are there. So where can one by one the opposition match them?
So a couple of things. So let us say that I agree that Hindutva and Hindu nationalism, particularly in the Hindi belt, is a fact. What we saw this time with even the Congress party, with Kamal Nath, with Bhupesh Baghel, is no interest in contesting that fact. In fact, as we know, the Congress party has often played a sort of a soft Hindutva card of its own in the Hindi.
Let's not blame only them. 2017, Rahul Gandhi, Janeudhari, exactly. All those things were being talked about. He went to temples. So there has been a confusion for the last nearly 4 decades of soft Hindutva or, making some kind of a compromise to it, right from Indira Gandhi's time onward.
That's right. And I understand that the Congress party doesn't want to make Hindu-Muslim an issue in the election, and that is true for many of the regional parties. But the opposition and the Congress party in particular also needs to understand that given the way that the media works, that narrative formation works, and what the parties represent, that you're not going to out-Hindu the BJP, right? And so the idea that somehow soft Hindutva is going to maintain your votes as opposed to coming up with an alternate narrative is simply not true. Then there's this question of welfare schemes, which you rightly point out, that has been a big boon for the BJP, especially in the direct benefit transfer era, right? Where essentially a politician or a bureaucrat at the top pushes a button and money shows up in people's accounts according to some criteria. Women between ages X and Y, people of different caste groups, whatever it is, right? This is a tool that is often used by state leaders as well. Gehlot also was quite popular actually in Rajasthan, even this time. Didn't face a huge amount of anti-incumbency, even though the Congress party lost, but it was more done by its own factionalism. But it is true that even today, the vast majority of support that you see for welfarism is accruing to Prime Minister Modi. And the reason, especially in the Hindi belt, and the reason is slightly more complicated, right? Which is that it is not simply about declaring or giving cash. What is the most important element of this welfare is that it allows a leader to brand herself or himself. Modi has done an extraordinary job of branding these benefits or free ration or many other sort of schemes that have shown up, especially in the Hindi belt, in his own image. So had you traveled in UP in the last election, Yogi Adityanath was there for law and order, right? Again, in quotes, right? But Modi was the provider. Even now, even if you travel in Madhya Pradesh, yes, Shivraj Singh Chauhan is a welfarist, but a large part of the positive welfarist feeling that one associates with the BJP in the Hindi belt is due to Modi himself.
Right.
That is a story of the strength of the party cadre. That is a story of how the BJP has branded welfare benefits in the image of the prime minister. And the hidden fifth pillar, which drives all of this, which you also know, is just the scale of resources the BJP is able to bring to the table. That's the oil that allows this to happen, right? That they simply, or it is simply that any party that is trying to put up a fight using exactly this template is being hit by a tsunami of resources. It cannot compete. You're not going to out-narrative, sort of drown the citizenry in information. You will not beat the BJP at that game, right? So that's sort of where it happens. So
Just one pointed, question at this stage. In this election, we saw a new slogan introduced by Mr. Modi, that is Modi ki guarantee.
Yes.
Further individualizing the welfare schemes of the government, that I guarantee you.
That is right.
The leader more center stage. Do you think that this is aimed at the fact that his personal popularity is higher than any of the others on the other side?
Absolutely, it is, right? As you know, I've used the phrase politics of Vishwas in some of my other work to describe the kind of politics that Modi in particular plays. The implication here is that you put Modi at the center of everything that that you deliver to the citizen. The citizen develops a relationship with Modi. I know that I'm voting for Modi and I'm finding reasons to vote for him. And I believe that Modi is the only one who can do this. So on voting day in 2019, when everybody else is running around and yelling and screaming in the media, Modi is meditating in a cave. He's above it, right? That is the image, right? Extremely good brand management and image management, but that's why Modi ki guarantee doesn't just capture the fact that I am Modi, I'm giving you the benefit, but only me,
Only.
only Narendra Modi can make this guarantee. That's a very crucial part of the kind of politics that we're seeing on the ground.
So, you also wrote an article after this results were declared on the role of the women voter, that there was greater support for the BJP and Mr. Modi's call from the women voters this time than in the past, with whatever little empirical data that we have within our position. What do you think has really actually led to this?
I've spent now, I would say, 2 elections where I've seen now, and which is why I started writing about it this time. In the most recently concluded UP election and in Rajasthan, notice this phenomenon where we are picking up that a lot of female voters in particular are mentioning Modi explicitly and the BJP, and that you're seeing a widening gap between female voters and male voters in their support for Modi and the BJP.
Right.
So the first is that we should not underestimate the kind of work the BJP has done through its Mahila Morchas in reaching out to female voters over the last decade in particular. This is not just a story of giving benefits or something like. First of all, that is not a Modi thing. Both Nitish Kumar and Mamata Banerjee were doing it before Modi was, right? Second, the real, and this is where the innovation there, if you talk to how people in the BJP think about reaching female voters, the way advertising is crafted only for female voters, to develop a direct link between the female voter and Modi, right? Very similar for those who watch West Bengal that Mamata has been able to do with the female voter, right? There is no Mamata-like character in the Hindi, which is why that kind of vote defaults to somebody like Modi and the BJP. And that's a constant. Now, what we are starting to see is that that gap is only starting to grow as the BJP becomes more effective at crafting its image and its politics around women. So, I think in the beginning, I think one of the big mistakes that was made by the opposition and the Congress party is that they said, okay, but this women voter thing is only a Shivraj Singh Chauhan thing, Ladli Behna, it's only happening in Madhya Pradesh. Actually, it's happening everywhere across the Hindi belt.
That's right. One major worry which has surfaced through this round of assembly elections is that India appears to be hurtling towards another very bitter and bad phase of North-South divide. The BJP's preference for Hindi has become more pronounced in the last few years. The 3 criminal laws are pending before Parliament. It would be passed any day in the winter session. The Parliamentary Standing Committee has refused to accept the recommendations made to name these laws in English. They are going to be in Hindi. The name of the law is going to be in Hindi. The entire push for Bharat in place of India, whether we like it or not, and the fact that it is there in Constitution, but the intention and the message being sent that this is popularizing or pushing down Hindi down the throat of people who do not speak in Hindi. This is the perception of the average BJP voter in North India. And I'm saying this after having interacted with a large number of people informally and also having grown up in North India to be able to understand the mindset of people here. How serious is this risk as a risk for the country? And secondly, that would this not affect the BJP's prospects in East, Northeast, and Southern India, from where they won, 69, 70 seats in 2019?
So, it's a difficult question first, right? It is clear that the BJP sees the Hindi belt not only as a place where it has continued to win, but as a place that it needs to continue to burnish and essentially keep those super high strike rates that I was talking about. It has to become the entire Hindi belt, that mass has to become a core base for the BJP for it to maintain the kind of electoral dominance that it has.
That's right.
2 things here. So one is I do believe that we're going to go through an ugly period where you are going to see increased tensions between the Hindi-speaking parts of the country and the non-Hindi-speaking parts of the country.
Right.
Not only is this about language, but it is also about what these states represent. There's been talk of some parts of the South are obviously more well off than the Hindi belt, lower fertility rates in not outside the Hindi belt. There is also the specter of delimitation. And this, I think, is something that we don't talk enough about. But if you go down south, it is very much on the minds of political analysts. The first census after 2026 will be used for delimitation.
That's right.
Right now, we're working with projections, but no matter how you calculate it, the Hindi belt gains about 15 to 20% in voting power, and the South loses about that.
That's right. And there is no discussion on this at the moment.
There is no discussion on this, right? Now, the point is that if we believe that 2024 is a fait accompli, which many people believe, we are looking at a situation where from here on out, national elections will be giving far more weight to the Hindi belt as compared to not, if this goes through as is planned. And the reason why it's particularly a difficult problem is that it's not just about seeing elections and parliamentary representation in purely regional terms. Delimitation is a fight in many countries. But the standard debate is typically in countries where the same parties represent all regions. Republicans and Democrats in the US cut across north, south, east, west. Right. Here, if you are weighting the Hindi belt as opposed to the non-Hindi belt, you are essentially advantaging one party, or maybe a set of parties, maybe the Congress in some places, but largely the BJP, against the regional actors. And that is a powder keg. That has the potential to cause a lot of difficulty. And so when we think about what this north-south divide is, I think people sitting in the north think, oh, this is just sour grapes, this, that. I don't think people internalize when you go outside of the Hindi belt. I also live in Delhi. I also live in the heart of it. And I know how much fear and concern and even anger there is about the growing divide here between the Hindi belt and the rest of the country.
Well, we can just say, that I hope that the BJP leadership and especially Mr. Modi listens to, the kind of voices which, you kind of reflected and, talked about, which is being heard quite often and also being written a bit. I hope that things don't really come to that pass. One last question, which is actually, this is something, it's an elephant in the room. We talk about everything, but we do not actually bring it in the open. The Muslim issue. Ever since the BJP has come to power in 2014, a message has been very steadily broadcast that the BJP does not need the votes of the Muslims to come to power. This has been proven time and again at the national level and in a large number of states. How does this seriously jeopardize the security and the internal security especially, and the social fabric of the country? And what effect would it have on India being a healthy democracy?
So, when people ask me, what is the test case for Hindu nationalism? Often people think, I'm going to say UP or this, that. Test case is Assam. Assam is a state where more than 1/3 of the population, according to the last census, is from the Muslim community. And yet the current chief minister, Himanta Biswa Sharma, goes out there and says, we do not need the vote of a single Mia Muslim, which is a pejorative for Bengali-speaking Muslims, right? It is a chief minister of a state in which more than 1/3 of his population is being explicitly told that we don't need you. You will not be represented in my party, and nothing that you care about can be a part of the party that I represent. And as we know, the same BJP has actually won the election twice in Assam. A lot of that is built on the kind of demographic segregation you have in Assam, where you have Muslim majority constituencies and you have Hindu majority constituencies. There are more Hindu majority constituencies, right? Yes. And when you compare that to, let's say, a West Bengal or some other parts where the population is more mixed, the BJP is unable to do that kind of politics to the same degree.
Yeah.
The concern, I think, that we have is that because the BJP plays this kind of politics, it is able to keep the kind of domination we've talked about in the Hindi belt. But B, with the new sort of narrative tools that are out there, Hindu nationalism can be a tool in states like Madhya Pradesh, which has less than 10% Muslim population.
This side.
And so by
Rajasthan, another
Yeah.
state where there is not an overwhelming presence. In
But
fact, during the Ayodhya agitation, the Ram Janmabhoomi movement, we used to write about openly that there was hardly any traction for the Vishwa Hindu Parishad and the RSS from Rajasthan.
That's right. So by creating an other that doesn't even exist next to you, it's actually a very insidious thing. And, I'll sort of say this very quickly, that the reason why it's insidious is that, you see, if I tell you untruths about something that you see in front of your house, if I tell you I built this road in your village, I go outside and I see there's no road in my village, I know you lied.
Right.
If I tell you about something that's happened on the China border or something, I have no idea, I'll trust you. By really sort of creating these untruths about a population that you have actually very little interaction with, the kind of othering that you're seeing is not just in places like Assam, where there are large Muslim populations, but also in the minds of people who very rarely meet Muslims. And so the reason why that becomes a very big concern for me is that at least one would like to think that, yes, maybe Hindu-Muslim, let's assume it's an ancient hatred for a second, that there are places where Hindu-Muslim is an issue. But there are places where it wasn't, simply because the demographics didn't support it. And therefore, other issues would come to the fore.
Right.
But today, if you can build a national politics on othering Muslims, even where there are no Muslims, then you are talking about a certain kind of social and political isolation, unlike anything we've seen in India, actually.
Right. Well, thank you for explaining this. And we have talked about the two biggest worries. One is the Hindi non-Hindi divide, which is there in the country, and the other is religious minorities and the majority. We only hope that the BJP leadership, Mr. Modi primarily, and the other leaders also, they not only take heed on their own, but they also ensure that their leaders and their cadre do not keep on making the same offense again and again. Just recently, a newly elected legislator in Rajasthan had said that there is going to be no non-vegetarian food to be sold on the streets of Rajasthan. These kind of calls which are made, this is actually dog whistle politics and has to end. We can just hope that in the 2024 parliamentary elections, that kind of campaigning is not done. Thank you, Dr. Nilanjan Sircar, for sparing time and talking to us about some of the facets of politics and elections which are going to unravel as we head into the thick of the Lok Sabha elections. I hope that we will continue to interact and get another opportunity closer to the parliamentary elections to be able to talk and assess which way is the drift of Indian politics and elections going. Thank you very much.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.